Supervisor, if I may, we went into executive session and we defer to counsel. Counsel, will you give Mr. Procacci the answer?
There is pending litigation. I am not going to comment.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, Rory Gordon.
Can somebody explain to me resolution number 32?
Commissioner? Is Commissioner Rotkamp here? Commissioner Rotkamp? Oh.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, members of Town Board. Resolution 32 is we've been asking FEMA since day one for information that they had on the properties within the town of Hempstead. And they basically have been refusing up to this point, and then they finally said if there's a resolution approved by the Town Board that they would give us that information.
Information in regards to what? I mean, financial, the documents that they received to get assistance, what type of information?
We would have access to all of that information.
So
we would know which houses were considered substantially damaged by FEMA.
but your department is the one that did the assessment on that. I'm lost somewhere here.
My department did a preliminary damage assessment 7 years ago. Looking from the outside, we searched 167,000 homes. So we did not get inside of them. Most people came forward and filed building permits because the building permits were free since day one and are still free. So the town board has made it possible for people to come forward because there is no cost for the permitting fee. The town board has waived over $7 million in permit fees up to date. Unfortunately, some people have not taken advantage of this yet, and by us getting this information from FEMA, it will help us assist the residents.
But shouldn't you already know who hasn't come forward based on the code that you gave them originally? Whether it was yellow or red? You would know, right?
We have a list, and they're still coming in slowly but surely.
Okay, is there a cutoff for this particular time?
No, there's not. The homeowners are still coming in as they're getting their paperwork and their finances in order.
Okay, and on number 38, can somebody explain that to me?
That's the town board's resolution.
Can you explain about the flood insurance?
Yes, basically, what the town board is looking to do is write a letter to the House of Representatives stating that they shouldn't change their policies.
And actually, just a question on that. 38 is a resolution asking the board to, I guess, you know, like the commissioner said, send a letter to Congress. Is there a reason why it's a resolution and we're not just preparing?
This is a sense of the board resolution. Did you say shut up?
No, I understand what the sense of the board is. I understand the definition, but what I don't understand is
FEMA has already, the National Flood Insurance Program has already postponed to, I think, 2021. They've already did what this resolution calls upon them to do, but it happened after this calendar was published. So that's why it's here, but last week they already did what we're asking them to do.
In other words, it's already passed.
right. So what I'm trying to say is there's no point in this resolution. I'm just trying to get an understanding. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just trying to get an
To the
understanding.
extent that they've already done,
I get that.
yeah.
Ms. Sinclair, do you have anything to just offer about this resolution? Thank you, Commissioner.
I read it in the newspaper. It's already been done, so we don't have to do this.
So while they did postpone the date of enacting the new flood insurance reform, they still haven't rewritten the bill. And the issue we have right now is that most of our homeowners who have flood insurance, based on the new risk rating program, could see their flood insurance go through the roof. And so we're basically saying, even though you've delayed it by a year, there still needs to be significant reform, or we're going to have people essentially having to foreclose on their homes because they won't be able to afford the burden of their flood insurance. So the Senate resolution is to say that, you know, we support reform, but we support smart reform that doesn't open up our homeowners to additional risk more than they already have living in the floodplain.
Right. I think all I'm trying to point out is that we're not, all we're doing is letting Congress know that we are in support of them moving this forward. This is not something that's going to change the building department tomorrow. We're in essence sending a letter saying we support this.
What we're saying is we don't support the bill as written.
Right.
Reform. And it's what most of the counties along the East Coast and towns have been doing, is adopting these. Just
And I agree with that. I'm just trying to point out that it's not,
correct.
there's nothing, just because I know there was questions and the commissioner had to answer. That's all. I was just pointing that out.
And so
Thank you.
this would really just give us a way to advocate for our residents. And it's certainly something that we will circulate with the town board, and everybody can weigh in and give comments on it. It's not going to be done unilaterally.
Correct.
I know you really have a handle on all this, about how many homes are still up in the air?
As the commissioner described, because we haven't had homeowners coming in. So let's say we have 20,000 flood insurance policies in the town of Hempstead. We had 13,000 people who had PDAs. There's some delta in there of people who just haven't taken any action. And so therefore we can't determine until they come into the town and apply for permits. So that's why we've been sort of doing more of an awareness so that people know what they can do to help themselves.
And what is it, the awareness that you do? Beside the letter that Laura sent out, I'm not talking about that I am aware of.
Well, there's been information that's been on the town website about coming and applying for permits post-Sandy. And I think in all of the media that's gone out and everything we've discussed, we've been telling people you need to be aware that you may have storm damage that needs to be mitigated.
Okay, and this letter from FEMA that's supposed to be answered in 60 days? Mm-hmm. Who's responsible to answer this?
Well, the building department, and then I assume the town attorney's office would sign on whatever their formal response is. Yeah.
So the same people that screwed it up are responsible to put it back together?
I think we have an opportunity with FEMA's request for policy and procedures to ensure that we are handling things properly. So we look at this as an opportunity.
Well, from your mouth to God's ears, because if not, they have an opportunity to say, hey, Town of Hempstead, we're not going to insure you anymore. Is that correct, in your opinion?
Okay.
I can't speak to us being deobligated from the flood insurance program. I think
We do need to stick to the item on the calendar, Ms. Gordon.
Well, okay, thanks. You've been very helpful. I appreciate it. And in number 40, I also agree that this should not be settled at this time. It's a travesty what's going on behind the curtain. And it took somebody like you to open up the curtain so we all would know, although we had a pretty good idea. And I think it was insulting the night of the election that they dragged Yamali up on stage. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gordon. Rich Shuren?
Good afternoon, Richard Shuren, 167 Jefferson Avenue. I have a question concerning process between the departments and the legal department. I'm not asking concerning a specific case that's under litigation or anything like that.
Mr. Shuren, I'm sorry, I have to confine you to the items on the administrative calendar. So if your comments are tied to an item on the calendar, then go right ahead. But otherwise, you'll have to wait for a public comment.
My comment is tied to item number 40. It's been reported with respect to item number 40 and other items and other issues that the town of Hempstead has contractual relations with vendors that are of an extremely informal nature. For example, it's been reported in this case that the vendor said he didn't even have a contract and he's running a huge facility, multi-million-dollar facility. And other vendors have indicated that they're running operations without contracts or based on letter agreements. And it's very disturbing to me as a resident and taxpayer that apparently the town has entered into legal relationships with entities without proper contracts, proper indemnification provisions, proper other provisions in a normal contract that would protect the taxpayers. So my question really is, what's the process with respect to department heads either extending, modifying, amending, or entering into contracts with vendors? Do they present that to the legal department for approval, for advice, for consent, or do they just go ahead and execute it themselves based upon their own authority? Mr. Rott, is there any type of process and review as an attorney that your office participates in with respect to approving or sanctioning these types of arrangements?
Since there is litigation or potential litigation on a couple of contracts that fit into the category that you're speaking about, I cannot comment. Anything I say would be used in court one way or another, so I cannot comment.
Okay. As a citizen of the town of Hempstead, and as a taxpayer, it's extremely, and an attorney, it's extremely disturbing to me to hear reports that the town of Hempstead is entering into relationships that allow vendors to operate, for example, running a catering hall, which creates all sorts of liability issues, without having proper agreements in place that protect the town of Hempstead and its taxpayers. And it's the relationships between the vendors and political individuals. It's just very, very, very disturbing and quite frankly frightening as to liability issues that can and will arise in these types of situations. I mean, for example, somebody were to be hurt at the golf course, for example, while Double Eagle was running it. I know they're not running it anymore. They've been forced out. But, I mean, and they were to sue the vendor and the town. I mean, you don't have agreements in place, indemnification agreements, insurance agreements, other various things. It's just extremely, extremely reckless. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shuren. I do not have any other slips on the administrative calendar. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard?
Mita Maraday, Baldwin resident. I have a question with regard to number 14. And my time is kind of ticking away. Should I keep talking, or would you be able to?
I'm sorry,
stop
it's
it
on
for
item 14.
item 14? With no due disrespect, I had misposed a question and I lost like 5 seconds on the clock. So,
Commissioner, could you just come up and speak on this?
Good afternoon, Supervisor, Town Board members, Senior Councilwoman. This item is for exterminating services that weren't covered under line item stuff. It was at 200 North Franklin Street.
So this is an office building.
Yes, it's our main building at 200 North Franklin.
We have a situation with bed bugs?
Yes.
Interesting. Oh, okay. Thank you.
It was many months ago. It's done. It was taken care of. It was mainly preventive. There was actually not a situation. It was very contained. It was actually on a person. There was none in the building, and we just did very extreme preventives to make sure that it was safe for all our residents.
Okay. I always just hope making sure that wasn't at any facility or anything that we have,
Thank you, Commissioner.
vulnerable populations. Concerned about certain items that get moved when the residents don't really have clarification and may not be able to come to speak. I was kind of, again, trying to keep up with Councilman D'Esposito's changes and requests for that. I won't repeat some of the statements that were made earlier. My concerns, I echo with regard to item 40. I'm concerned with regard to the situation with FEMA and those houses. Many of those residents have not been able to come forward right now. They're having fights with the county and the state. So a number of them, including a number of veterans, are facing foreclosure actions because they're still paying taxes on properties that they can't live in. The procurement policy item 36, not sure why that was adjourned without a date. If someone could explain that to me, I'd appreciate it. 36. From what I understand, you wanted it adjourned without a date.
Mr. Regina, 36.
This is the panel of architectural service providers. My recommendation to the board was to hold on approving that. There are items in the procurement guidelines that I want to discuss with the board before any other panels are established.
Could you be a little more specific?
No, that's between me and them on legal matters.
Okay. Seems to be a lot of internal stuff that noticeably residents are concerned about, particularly if we talk in 38 where we say seek meaningful and affordability protections. We're looking to do that, writing a letter to the government, our federal government agencies, and residents are not getting it from our local government. So I'm just concerned about that. Item 31, as it pertains to the funding for building development for zombie homes, my focus has always been particularly on trying to keep residents in their homes. Again, particularly our veterans who normally come forward well beyond the realm of possibility to get the assistance. So again, why I also focus on making sure that we do all the relative and necessary salutes, I'm also the one that is dealing with the local sheriffs to try to avoid foreclosures and eviction processes. So I would like to see possibly some of those funds go towards housing protection as opposed to homeless support services. If we can do that, we can make less homes zombie homes. Lastly, on item 49, I just want to again understand what the process is with this overall ethics board, because there seems to be, again, questions as to what this is actually going to do, because public trust is over. It does not exist, sad to say, but we still have to pay its taxes. So if somebody could explain that to me.
An ethics board was impaneled. However, one of the designees resigned, I think, very shortly after he was appointed by the council. It was one of the council's designees, and they have to refill that position. I don't see any reason why the ethics board still cannot meet. I wrote to them and asked them to meet, but they have not met yet, to my knowledge.
I see. Okay. One of the other things I would hope with the incoming administration, or possibly with this current administration, is if we can truly affect some type of process that we can increase inclusion for service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses, so that we can actually see on the listings here if these companies, some of these names are familiar, so I'm not seeing anything new. I'm not seeing anything diverse, and that's a challenge and a concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mariday. Ms. Jacobs?
Pearl Jacobs, Uniondale, representing Nostrand Garden Civic Association. Regarding item 31, reduction of zombie homes, I'm all for anything that would reduce zombie homes in our areas. However, we need a moratorium, and I'm sure Uniondale residents would wholly support a moratorium on shelter homes in our communities. And I'm not referring to shelter homes with women and children, domestic homes. I'm talking about shelter homes with people coming out of prison, drug-related, and the such. Okay, so the statistics are alarming. 81% of all shelter homes in Nassau County that are sanctioned by the Nassau County Department of Social Services are located in majority minority communities: Uniondale, Roosevelt, Hempstead, and Freeport. Every community in Nassau County, in the town of Hempstead, should share the burden of shelter homes. And this sort of practice lends to further marginalization of communities of color. Senior Councilwoman Goolsbee, would you support me on that?
To really help us, because it comes through them. We don't have anything to do. They pay the money to these folk who have those shelters. I would really support that.
So perhaps maybe we can get together and meet and start some sort of dialogue with the legislator, a joint discussion regarding moratoriums on these shelter homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard on the administrative calendar?
Oh, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Supervisor, Senior Person Gooseby, Council. Point of inquiry of case number 2915, item 7. Is it connected to case number 2943, number 10? Whereas the resolution 10 ratifying, confirming, and granting permission of the town of Hempstead parking fields. Because I notice it has Uniondale in there, and then they speak about number 10 about donations. So I just want a point of inquiry for its clarification.
So you're asking about item number 7, is that correct, sir?
Yes, for the first part, because it says the first part, resolution 10, which if you go down to number 10, it speaks about a donation to the town of Hempstead of $5,000 to the office to subsidy of the parks, the town for the summer concert program. Okay. So I wondered if the two were connected.
So, Commissioner, are these connected? The use of the parking field? No, it has Baldwin here, Merrick. I'm sorry, it has Uniondale on 7. Let me make sure I'm reading.
I actually don't believe so. The town of Hempstead just gives a permit for different uses for parking fields.
Oh, okay.
And that's our total responsibility. We don't allow anyone to make money or things to that nature. If it's a 501c or so, we'll allow that. But I didn't see anything negative when I reviewed them.
Yeah, because when I read this, when it said resolution 10, I went down to resolution 10, said authorization of town of Hempstead.
No, that's completely different.
That's why I said point of inquiry for clarification. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, for the record, James Jacob, Uniondale.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My name is Denise Riggio, and I'm from Valley Stream. This is my first time coming to a meeting like this, but I can tell you it probably won't be my last. It's been very eye-opening to sit and listen to what's going on and what is not being disclosed to the public. Having come from a corporate environment during my career, I'm deeply concerned what I'm hearing with regards to policies and procedures. A lot of these items on here, from awarding contracts to moving funds from one account to another, which doesn't even tell you what's happening or why it's happening, to procurement policies, to settlements of cases, to the lack of an ethics board functioning because a single member is not there. So in summary, I'd like to ask, where are the policies and procedures that fundamentally run our government? And where is that available for public review and comments so that we can go through them, we can understand what those procedures are, when they were last updated, when they were last reviewed, who's sitting on those committees, when those committees last were functioning, when the next meetings are, who is attending those meetings and who is not attending those meetings, so that when we come to meetings like this, we are informed about what is going on and how our government is functioning. Because coming from a corporate environment, I have to say, I'm shocked.
So,
and if it's available and I'm just new to this game, that's fine. But I really, really would like to see some of these policies and procedures.
So, first of all, the town is a creature of the state. So the first place to look for the rules and regulations on how we operate is town law. That's the title of the section. And then there is some interaction between the town law and the general municipal law, which is also a state law. So you would want to look in town law, general municipal law, and then we have rules and regulations that we promulgate here on the town board. And in addition to that, the ultimate policymaker is this board.
Okay,
that doesn't mean the commissioners can't set rules for their departments, so long as it's micro rather than macro. But if it's a macro issue, it has to be approved by the town board.
So in terms of other concerns of yours, we've tried to make a push towards transparency. The things that are on the agenda, except the emergency hand-ups, which come generally right before the board meeting. The agenda is available on on the town's website. We did put forward a resolution to bring in a contractor called Novus Agenda to make the town agenda more searchable for residents, so that if there are 150 items on the calendar, 100 items on the calendar, and there's something in particular you're looking for, right now you have to scroll through the agenda. I'm hoping that maybe in the months ahead, the town council tabled that resolution. I'm hoping that perhaps they will reconsider that and move forward and bring that resolution back. We worked on it for about a year. It will ultimately save the taxpayers money, and it's a really good idea, and it's a way to make things more transparent. In terms of other procedures with moving money around into different accounts, the resolution here is to reconcile some of the expenditures. This is something that does happen at the close of every year. However, I did have concerns about the ways monies were moved around within the town of Hempstead. My concerns were so severe that I wrote to the state controller, and he actually is doing a top-to-bottom fiscal audit of the town of Hempstead because of the concerns that I raised, and I expect that we will be getting a report probably, I don't know if it's going to be within the month or the next month or so. They have been here working in town hall doing an audit. We have put forward transparency legislation that suggests, unless it's changed, that once that audit is finalized, it should be published on our website. So that should give you some more information about some of the fiscal controls and some of the fiscal procedures here in Town Hall, and recommendations of the state controller.
Thank you. As a follow-up question to Mr. Blakeman, so I understand what you're saying to me is that it starts from the top down, and I can appreciate that. But from an operational standpoint, you're operating day to day, which means whether or not you have gotten the guidance from above, you've interpreted it in one way or another, and you should be documenting what those policies and procedures are, and that should be available. So from an operational standpoint, this government is operating day to day. How is it operating? Where are those policies, procedures, guidelines, rules, or whatever you want to call them? And then we can work out. Ideally, it should come top down, but we can work bottom up. So I would still like to understand how I can get to those details. Before you answer that, Ms. Gillen, I would also like to know where we can get more details on these individual items. They're individual line items, and it's money's moving, but it's not. It just does. It's 25. It just says money's moving.
I'd be happy to provide you with a copy of the resolution so you can see where exactly the money is moving. So, for example, for 2018, there was an over expenditure of over $500,000 from the tax receiver's office, and so money has to be moved over there to cover those over expenditures. And there's items like that, and we'd be happy to give you a copy of that.
So in general, the public can access that information? Or
yes, it was part of the resolution that was put forward.
But any one of these that we want information on?
For every item on the agenda, there should be a backup for the resolution that is not just on the agenda, but there's a backup that's published. Sometimes that won't tell you the whole story, and that's why people come here to ask us some information. With pending litigation, it is more difficult because if there is pending litigation going on, for example, one of the things that Mr. Ross said was in terms of taking a position on whether or not commissioners are authorized to execute contracts on behalf of the town without putting them before the town board is an issue that's involved right now in litigation with Dover Catering. So if he took a position here, that could be used against him or used against the town in litigation, and so he would not do so without, following the legal protocol with respect to that ongoing litigation. So there are sometimes legitimate reasons why we cannot comment on ongoing litigation. Also, there are concerns about privacy matters sometimes with employees and things like that.
I appreciate that. So that goes back to where I would now like Mr. Blakeman to answer the question. With regards to the procedures, rules, policies, and procedures, again, it doesn't matter what you're going to call them. From an operational standpoint, you're operating. So where are those guidelines for public viewing?
Most of what we do here has been passed by resolution and is available online if you know what resolution you want to look for. If you want internal work rules and things like that, if you foil them, then we can get those to you.
Okay. I guess in my remaining 8 seconds, what I would say is that it's shocking that a government of this size does not have it readily available for new employees, and that I, as a public citizen, have to foil them.
I'd be happy to put those items online for you. Or, like, for example, we have policy and procedures for the animal shelter that were just put into place. I'd be happy to post those online and make those things available to you. So if you want to reach out to my office about some of the things that you think are important, I'd be happy to address those in specifics with you. Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard on the administrative calendar? All right. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll on the administrative calendar?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye. I vote aye, except with respect to item number 33, which is the calendar. Regardless of who is sitting in the seat, I believe there should be more night meetings that are more accessible to residents. I put forward originally a calendar that had, I think, 50% of the meetings at night. I do believe that that's something that the town council and town board should reconsider. And I vote most decidedly no on the settlement that's contemplated in item number 40.
Councilman Blakeman?
Yes, I vote aye on the administrative calendar as amended, with the exception of item 40. I vote no.
Councilman D'Esposito?
I vote aye on the amended calendar. I'm recusing myself from number 23, and I'm voting no on number 40.
Councilman Dunn?
I vote aye on the amended calendar and no on 40.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
I vote aye on all except number 40. I vote no.
Councilman Muscarella?
I vote aye on all the proposals and no on number 40.
Okay, I would like to thank my fellow town board meeting members for voting no on item 40. I think that was a great move. I'm very happy that we agreed on that.
Well,
may we have a...
That's what we do. When something is right, that's what we do.
That's right. Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Supervisor Gillen?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito? Councilman Dunn? Aye. Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Well, if anybody wants to stay, you can stay. I have the, excuse me? What is it, hon? What are you looking for?
You guys are not open to the public for anything that is not on this? Oh, you're doing it now, okay.
Take a 5-minute break, 10-minute break.
I'll start. You go to the bathroom.
You go. Okay.
All right. First up, Felix Procacci.
Mitch, can you stay? You got to answer this question real quick. Felix Procacci, I brought up a while back about Thomas Wildig, the issues with an inquiry I made to his office regarding the contract of John Mastromarino. And I understand Mr. Picnic resubmitted it to him to review again. And I just want to know, he was, the words that came back to me was he was asking for another 120 days to reevaluate it again. I just want to know if he ever got back to you on that.
Mr. Wildig is here. I don't know if you want to.
Okay, well, if he would like to answer what the problem is, I'm happy for him to sit down if you'd like to. Is he? Okay, he doesn't want to. Can't force him.
Nope, this is public comment.
I understand. Well, the thing is, it's, as I stated when I brought this up months ago, it was basically an incompetent report. It was one sentence. It took 111 days, I believe, to complete. So my personal feeling is this board should take action and fire Mr. Wildig for basically violating the ethics code, intentional violation of the ethics code, and should bring this to the district attorney because, according to our own compliance officer's law, he committed a misdemeanor. It's part of the law. I think that if we're going to pass ethics laws and have all this stuff. I think when it comes up, we should at least address it. And from what I can tell, we're not even addressing it, so it's not really good. Another thing, I'm not going to pose it as a question. I know why it was done. I just felt that bringing up the transactions on the November 4th meeting, it didn't even follow our 1-hour rule that we just passed. I mean, I know it's a back and forth of who started this and who started that. I really don't care who started it. I just want to start following the rules from here on in. And we did it 2 times in a row. And, you know, the other side, from what I can tell, and I got all the videos, if anyone could point out where the other side did it, I don't see it. I don't recall it, that we just follow the rules that we pass. I think that's not a lot to ask. And one more thing is, just like we did with the bed bug issue on the administrative calendar, where we ratifying an extension to a contract after the fact, why don't we make put that same verbiage into the procurement rules and stuff for contracts, that instead of just giving the commissioner and the controller the right to extend the contract, maybe they could do that if it's worthy, but then at the next town board meeting, they're required to notify the town board formally. So just like we're doing with the bed bug issue, that we did hire the people first and then it came back to the board. If any changes made to the contract, the controller or the commissioner should be required to bring that at the next available town board meeting. So if it was an urgent thing, they had to use $10,000 to fix the plumbing or something, and they didn't have a town board meeting to present that resolution, that's fine. But present it at the next town board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Procacci. Mary Timmons. They were together. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for welcoming us to speak about our issue.
No problem. Glad we could
Appreciate
stay.
that very much. So I'm Mary Timmons, and this is one of my neighbors.
My name is Margaret Rozeski.
And we live in the town of Hempstead, greatest township in America, largest. And we happen to also live in the community of Garden City. So we have an issue, cell antennas. Cell antennas are across Long Island. Some areas have been gravely affected. The town of Huntington is going through a huge, huge problem. And their present board is working on, they've written a letter to Tom Swazi asking that he contact the FCC and Congress and have them look into the safety of these cell antennas that are going up all over the place. Our situation in Garden City is that I came home from vacation one day, a little bit of jet lag, walked into my tiny little backyard, and first thing I saw was this huge blob of a 4-foot tall, 1 foot wide, 8-inch deep equipment box. And it was making a huge roar noise. Like, what is this? I look up, and about 22 feet up, there's a pole, about a 4-foot tall pole. Roar. I'm like, ugh, somebody must be measuring something back here. I couldn't think of anything else. Well, a week later, it's still there. Nobody knows what it's about. A week after that, it's still there. Turns out that it is a cell antenna, a company without our permission, without the homeowner's permission. This is surrounded by 4 homes, 60 by 100 plots, 8 foot away from a child's play set. On a utility pole, on private property on the utility pole, trespassed. We don't even know how they got back there. Trespassed and put up all this massive equipment. We have been bullied. We have been traumatized in the neighborhood. We have had many meetings. We've reached out to Crown Castle. We've said, please move this in summary. Their attorney met with us and said we would be more than happy to move it. But our client is T-Mobile, and they need it there. Okay, we reach out to John Ledger, the big guy in pink at T-Mobile. Help us. He sends a woman, she looks at it, she can't say anything, but her face says it all. She's going to help us. That was over 18 months ago. You know where we are? Start one. Start one. That's where we are. Over 18 months. One antenna on private yard without permission, without a permit. We have no help from Garden City on this, by the way. They told us to hire our own attorney. Do you want to know the figures for that? Margie has 3 more minutes. Can she continue?
Sure.
Well, it would cost.
I just have a question, just so I have an understanding. Obviously, this is Councilman Muscarella's district. I don't want to impose on him, but I just want to, from my knowledge, you guys live in the incorporated village of Garden City, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, but this is how we need your help.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to get an understanding, that's all.
Just briefly, you know how there's a fire, whether it's in Garden City, okay? It's too massive. What happens? We are Long Islanders. We pull together. We don't let anybody sink. We are sunk. One homeowner, the DeMarco family. You think they have over 200,000? No, and T-Mobile and Crown Castle know that.
Luckily, you're not drowning. Councilman Muscarella has life jackets for you. We're going to save the day. Go ahead.
Yes.
Sherry DeMarco is is the homeowner, and she would be here, but she had stomach surgery, so she's unable to be with us. So I'd like to make a note of that. But Mary is right. I mean, we are being taken advantage of. We're being bullied. I live across the street from this atrocity, and quite frankly, we've been forced to create a neighborhood watch committee to look for these Crown Castle trucks that come down the block. A few years ago, they were going to upgrade this and put a much larger, stronger antenna, and we didn't even know it. There was a simple door hanging paper on Mary's door. Didn't even know what it was regarding. She had to call and ask a lot of questions, and as a homeowner, you should be able to know what's going on in your private property.
Can I just ask, lifelong resident of Garden City, where exactly in Garden City do you guys live? Where are you?
Well, the one that has no permit, because they actually took the address where they requested to open the street through the conduit. They, on their own, left that address and went to a different address. There's only one location like that, and that is 31 Maxwell Road. Wow. The emissions go out, as far as we know it, at least 1,500 feet. And T-Mobile has said to us they want to move it, but guess what? They can't find a place to move it to. They asked us if we wanted to
worry about. We shouldn't have to worry about where they have to find a location for this. This is in very close proximity to Hemlock Park.
Yeah, I know.
Hemlock
I'm
School.
looking at your address. That's where I went to school. Hemlock. Yeah, I know.
Our block alone, we have tons of children. We've got children with special needs.
Yes, I know.
And this is an ongoing worry. We all know that the radiation from cell phones are a big concern, and we've got radiation coming out of this 24/7, which we can't put on airplane mode. We can't shut it off. The device actually has a warning on it. It's easily reachable from the ground. If any kids decide that they want to be rambunctious and climb up, they certainly could. So we're shocked that safety hasn't been taken into consideration whatsoever. But another outrage is when we foiled hundreds and hundreds of documents. God blessed us with finding this one needle in a haystack, really, after looking and looking, because we kept on asking, is there a permit for this? Where's the permit for this? We couldn't find any permit. Well, that's because this was supposed to be at 18 Linden Street, but was put at 31 Maxwell Road. So when the fiber was laid and the ground was dug up, they went well beyond their scope of the permit. And the permit, which I have in my hand, and it can go around certainly to the entire board, states that homeowner permission is required.
Do you have an extra copy of that, or can you leave that with the clerk?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you, guys. Obviously, Councilman Muscarella will be in touch with you to go through any issues moving forward. Obviously, not trying to pass the buck, but it is a Village of Garden City issue that I know the councilman is going to try to move through the weeds for you. So I guess for now, just be patient, but
Thank you.
he is on it.
Respectfully, can I just have like 30 more seconds? I know we had a lot of questions back and forth.
If I can just mention one thing. Councilman Muscarella, about, I don't know, a month ago, asked us to look into this. We have run into what you've run into. The Village of Garden City basically doesn't care. They will not help us. They will not. All we can do and all the councilmen can do is advocate for you. See, we enforce our rules by our building department. We go out and serve summonses when somebody puts up a structure without a permit. We can't do that at your house because we have no jurisdiction there.
But
We have talked to Crown Castle. Excuse me?
Have you,
I'm saying, when you get an application here from T-Mobile and Crown Castle, you need to remember us. You need to remember they won't remove one antenna. What about all of your residents? One antenna.
In any event, so.
Yes,
the
we're
town-
have you spoken to Mr. Delaney?
Town of Hempstead has no
I believe he's your trustee, Mr. Delaney. Have
We
you
have
spoken to him?
talked multiple times over the years. And
Mr.
we've, yes, in fact, we went to the Town of Oyster Bay meetings and we actually spoke there. And then we went to a Garden City Village meeting and
Right.
spoke, and we were told that if we liked the Town of Oyster Bay so much, that maybe we should move there.
And they told us at the Village of Garden City board meeting, why don't we go around and collect money from our neighbors to help pay for the attorney's fees?
Now, our
It's like
previous
insulting.
mayor-
It's ridiculous.
We asked our previous mayor, Mayor Dorney, multiple times to meet with him. He refused to meet with us. And our Mayor Trouvé, we've sent multiple emails, and none of them have been responded to.
This is
So
the
we
action
cannot
I
have a
would take.
dialogue with our village.
If it was in my district and if it was my house, let me put it that way. 18 Linden is supposed to have the cell site, correct?
Yes. Correct. They're supposed to
They-
have
Just
712.
correct, yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
So 31 Messler is where they put it. 18 Linden may be getting paid, they pay handsomely every month for you having that cell site on your property. 18 Linden might be getting paid.
No, they're not.
Did you ask them?
No, what's happening is.
All right, so here's what I would do
Verizon is
then.
getting paid.
Here's what I would do. Go to the DA, say they illegally put stuff on my property. I'm not being paid what everybody else is being paid. They're getting paid handsomely every month to have a cell site on their property, and this person's not getting that money. It could be moved to public property where then Garden City would be happily, to get involved if there's going to be money coming to them.
We did file a complaint with the DA.
Have you gone to the DA?
Yes, we did.
The DA, they're aware of it, but
They
All
told
right,
us there was
I'm
not
sorry.
enough information.
I don't want to cut you guys off, but we're trying to stick to the 3 minutes because there are other people that want to speak.
Request of the town of Hempstead. And obviously, we're going to be working with Councilman Muscarello.
Sure.
And we're very happy that you were voted in. You had our vote. We would just wonder why the town of Hempstead would continue to do business with T-Mobile or Crown Castle.
Well,
knowing
and that's
all
something that we'll explore. We'll speak to our attorneys and we'll go from there.
thank you for your
We
support.
appreciate your support.
We'll
Thank
keep
you.
coming back, and we'll pay attention to what's going on in this town. Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do.
Rochelle Kevelson?
Hello, Rochelle Kelvison, Lawrence, New York. I have two issues here, and the first one was with New York American Water. They have, in the last few years, dug up the streets, and then they had to be redone and redone and redone. A postcard was sent out about a week ago that they're going to do more work. And obviously, on my block and farther down, and they said they're working near or next to the Cedarhurst Country Club. I've lived in the Five Towns about 53 years, and I've never heard of Cedarhurst Country Club. They couldn't even write the Lawrence Yacht and Country Club. I don't understand that. But the problem is the water bills are enormous. People are complaining in Woodmere and Cedarhurst and Hewlett. They're enormous. I get bills, and I'm one person, 253 gallons a day. Think about 253 gallons of milk. Picture that. That's a lot. I take a shower. I don't use my dishwasher. I do a few laundries. I do have irrigation, and I spoke to them numerous times, and they said, use it for 5 minutes once a week. I use it I don't have big property. My house is very small, and I use it every other day. I'm number 21, so I go on the odd days for 20 minutes, and I don't feel, I've had them come, they check the meter, I have no leaks, whatever. And something has to be done. People are getting hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
So if I can interject, the water company is regulated by the state, the Public Service Utilities Corporation.
They have gotten.
Or commission. The use of your water, if it is an issue, they are supposed to send somebody out to check and make sure that you're being properly metered for the water that they're alleging that you use. So if you think that there's a gross miscalculation, you have to make a complaint to the Public Service Utility Commission, and in addition, they're the ones that set not only the rates, but they are the ones that approve or deny the capital improvement program that the water company is supposed to be engaged in. And they're not supposed to get increases unless they have a valid reason for it, both operationally and from a capital standpoint. And one of the things that we've talked about on this board is the fact that we don't believe that they are keeping pace with a capital plan that addresses issues with respect to the brown water that we get, the fact that they need filtration systems, the fact that they need to replace certain pipes that they haven't done. But if ordinary residents, I can write a letter, and I have written a letter, I think probably Anthony's written letters and others on the board have written letters, but unless the residents, you as individuals, complain, they're not going to do anything. And it's regulated by the state, and we have virtually no control over it.
I know that they are, and they get raises constantly. This is wrong. I didn't talk. I'm ending here. Pardon me. Okay. The other issue I have, Councilman Blakeman, how Inwood passed for the rezoning. Nobody knew about anything. And I am very active in the Village of Lawrence, and I don't understand that. What about...
Can I explain that to you?
Can I just say how dangerous that one street, Lawrence Avenue, will be a commercial street? Churches will be destroyed. There's a few bodegas. I don't understand. If there is a hurricane or something, we need that as a conduit. 878 is not, Rockaway Turnpike is not, we have to go to Mill Road. Atlantic Beach also, there's a problem. They can't get out of our neighborhood. They're going to build 1,700 apartments in Far Rockaway. Okay.
Yeah,
and
so,
that's coming also.
Yeah, so I want to respond to that. I think there's a misconception about what has taken place in Inwood and North Lawrence. So I can work you through that for a couple moments. But let me tell you about the process. The process was that we went out to the community and sent letters to everybody in the surrounding community, inviting them to public meetings that we held in the community, which is not what we ordinarily do. Ordinarily, we put something on the calendar, and it's up to the residents to have to come here to voice their concerns. But we sent letters out to everybody in the community.
What community? North Lawrence is not, Lawrence is incorporated.
Lawrence was sent, yes.
Nobody got it. Nobody that I know. And
Mrs. Kevelson, I can tell you that we had a number of Lawrence residents there. We had 3 meetings. We had a meeting that was a public meeting open to the general public, and we had 2 stakeholder meetings. The first stakeholder meeting was with all of the surrounding villages. That included the Village of Lawrence, the Village of Cedarhurst, and they also participated in a meeting with us where we unveiled the proposal, and there was no objection from the Village of Lawrence or the Village of Cedarhurst. Matter of fact, they were for it. Let me finish. Then there was another stakeholders meeting where we invited the Lawrence Cedarhurst Fire Department, the Meadowmere Park Fire Department, the Inwood Fire Department, the Woodmere Fire Department, Hatsala, the Long Island Railroad, the MTA, Nice Bus, Nassau County Police Department. They were all brought in, and I'm just naming a few, there were others, the Inwood Civic Association. We brought them all together. We had the proposal put out, and I would say 95% of the participants at that meeting were very positive. And then when we had the general meeting, for which if you lived within a 500-foot radius of the epicenter of where that was going to transpire, which includes the village of Lawrence, you would have received a written letter inviting you to that meeting. That was overwhelmingly positive. Then we had the last meeting before the board considered that particular item. And at that hearing, we had people from the village of Lawrence, we had people from Inwood, North Lawrence, Woodmere, Cedarhurst, and my colleagues can tell you, everybody but one person was for it. One person wasn't even against it, they just thought there should be more information. The fact of the matter is, Inwood and North Lawrence now is a public safety hazard, it's a transportation hazard. This transportation-oriented district is designed to get people out of their cars so that they don't take their cars, so that everything will be at their fingertips, so that when they live in the community, they don't have to drive to Cedarhurst, they don't have to drive to Peninsula Boulevard. They will have their bakery, their butcher shop, their dry cleaner. That's what's called transportation-oriented housing. It's located at a railroad station and at a bus stop.
Railroad station is Lawrence.
There are two railroad stations, Lawrence and Inwood. Right.
I disagree with you wholeheartedly. The president of the Civic Association did not know anything about it. And I go to the Board of Trustees meetings almost every time. And I was president of the Civic Association many years ago. You ask around, nobody knew of these meetings, and we didn't get. And she should have gotten, because I brought it up to her.
We had 4 meetings.
Nobody knew.
Do you think that North Lawrence and Inwood now, by the railroad stations, is an acceptable condition for the community?
No, it's not.
It's not.
But to build big apartment houses, I don't know who's going to be there. Are a lot of children, more people going into our school district, because 15 only has about 23.
We also invited the school district to the meetings, and there was no opposition from the school board.
Well, I don't know.
So look, we have.
And I'm very active.
Can I tell you something, Mrs. Cavelson? We have a difference of opinion on that.
Fine. We're
Reasonable
having a
people
meeting
can.
tomorrow night for flooding mitigation in the public library at 8 o'clock. Maybe you'd like to come, and we have a private meeting before, or we're going to have our regular meeting, and I would like you to.
I don't believe I can make that, but if you invite me back to some future meeting, I'm sure I'll do it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Shayla Ramos? No comment? Okay. Diane Madden?
Diane Madden, Hempstead. The operational audit and the lawsuit, what is the update with that of the animal shelter?
Pending litigation.
Still pending. So you're waiting for a response from the county controller?
It's pending litigation. I'm not going to comment.
Okay. Well, I would like to point out that to date, and I'm looking forward to, after January 1st, no recommendations regarding outside animal care experts, independent of political affiliations, have been brought in. The compliance officer, any update with that? There's an investigation, I'm assuming. Is this not ongoing because you have no ethics board, or it's not meeting? I just want to be clear. So is it an ethics board, but it hasn't had any meetings in all of these months?
We had a ethics board member that resigned, and we need to fill the position.
So there is still a vacancy. Thank you for clarifying, because it's been very hard to get. In fact, I think I got a different answer, but I'd have to go back on the last town board
There is
meeting.
a vacancy on the board.
Okay. So it's been a number of months. Any idea about when?
We're hoping to have someone on the calendar for the next board meeting.
Okay, there's also a situation that's been brought to my attention. It's been brought to my attention for many years because, again, the town attorney's office does not enforce the laws and codes. It's with regards to a home where there are many GSDs, German Shepherd dogs, and there are many people that have been concerned about the welfare of dogs. And I'm always a believer that hoarders are not born, they're created. And I'm wondering if there's an update, if the animal shelter has taken any interest or action on this situation, and if those dogs have been checked on and vetted.
We can look into it
You have an
and let you know.
address? You have a specific house in mind?
It's the one that you've been notified about many, many times, yes. I believe there's a political relative, which is why the town attorney's office has not taken action.
That's ridiculous. If somebody's violating the law, we take action, okay? Stop. It just doesn't happen like that. It doesn't.
Okay, so there's a lot of people that would disagree with that have made complaints to the town.
You have a house that the person is a hoarder, and you're telling me that the building department is not taking action.
I'm saying that there is a home where it appears that it's basically a kennel environment where there are no codes being enforced, no laws being enforced by the town, and these dogs have not been accounted for or checked on.
Can you give me the general location? Is it in West Hempstead? Is it?
I'll do so off record. The Ulster County canines. I know, Mr. Rye, you keep insisting that you either don't know or it's not accurate. I would know. I helped and I created the Tales of Hope Fund. That fund, first of all, was supposed to be for wellness in addition to a few other things, but it's definitely for outside training if needed. And that's not to say we shouldn't have a competent trainer, which we don't. But that Tales of Hope Fund should pay to donate some money to Ulster County Canines, a private organization that rubs pennies together to do the magnificent work that they do, and they picked up our dogs that this town board refused to get from Kim Strong, where the director, Mike Pistori, okayed to send. When is that money going to go to Ulster County Canines? They're our dogs. They're still our responsibility.
I would leave that to Mr. Lackaruba to answer. I don't have day-to-day control over the animal.
Thank you, Ms. Madden.
Thank you.
P. Salmon? There's no first name, I'm sorry. P. Salmon? Rachel Martino. It's okay.
I've got some stuff for you guys to take home too.
You just give it to the clerk. Thank you.
Okay, hi, Rachel Reichman Martino, Kings Park. First off, I would like to really thank everyone for hiring new Assistant Director Ashley Behrens. She's been a godsend to the shelter. Just like Melissa Fogarty, they both know the names of the animals, their stories, and both ladies work great together with the animals, volunteers, and staff. However, I'm here today to discuss a really huge problem that cannot be overlooked anymore at your shelter. Just like with our children, when we have someone caring for them, we can only hope that they will communicate with us when a problem arises, and a huge problem has arisen. Although things have been moving in an upward direction, one of the biggest problems has always been not enough staff to humanely care for the animals, your animals, the homeless animals of the town of Hempstead. As you can see in the pictures, it's one of the largest shelters in the country, but now since 5 already part-time, amazing employee hours have been cut, things are not looking good and are going downhill quickly. With that being said, I'd like to clarify that this is not a delegating or authoritative position problem at all. This is a staffing problem. This is literally a you can't squeeze water from a dry sponge problem. The bottom line is there is not enough staff at your town shelter to handle everything that needs to be done in a humane way. The best way to explain the shelter is that it's like a triage unit or an emergency room full of live beings that cannot care for themselves and cannot just sit there like a piece of equipment or a vehicle staying stagnant. On the average, your shelter houses over 100 dogs and 150 cats daily, and yet all departments are depleting. Kennel staff is not a pretty job. They have to clean the feces and the urine out of the kennels, to clean the litter pans all day long, take dogs in and out of the exercise pens, feed 250 animals, fill water bowls frequently. They're supposed to be helping with play groups, but there's not enough staff to do play groups, so that's not happening. TNR cats need to be processed. Volunteers need help with the staff in and out dogs. And then in the middle of all of this, bam, there's a dog tied to the fence outside, and they have to take care of that too. These hourly cuts have negatively affected the adoption department as well. Essentially, not enough of your animals are able to get homes or properly cared for because of the hour cuts. Another perplexing part of the hour cuts is that although there are hour cuts for very qualified and experienced existing staff, there are also some new faces. These are inexperienced people that need to be trained by your already understaffed kennel staff, and to boot, every new person that the town brings in is now a risk to the animals. Many of these newbie employees have zero experience handling animals. Some of them don't even want to handle animals. In reality, the existing experienced kennel staff can get more done by reinstating hours and even adding more hours than bringing on a new unexperienced person that may potentially be a liability. Just one more quick thing. I urge all of you to listen to the shelter directors and supervisors that you have hired. You've hired them because you know that this is the area of their area of expertise. But if you don't listen to them and don't give them the tools for what they need, then how are they supposed to be able to do what needs to be done? I beg you to please reconsider the hourly cuts and reinstate the hours to your already experienced, qualified staff, and also beg you to please consider giving them even more hours as well. The animals deserve it, and so do these awesome humans that do a really great job at the shelter. Let's not go backwards.
Well, thank you. We actually received some of your emails, I guess, over the last couple of days and this morning. And I know when we had a caucus this morning, we are going to sit down with the commissioner from General Services and try to figure out a way to get some of the hours back.
Great, and what I gave you all guys was like some calculations.
Okay.
For the ASPC.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your work. Rich Sharon.
We're not wearing volunteers.
Rich Sharon. Marie Reimers. Did I say that right? I'm sorry. All right. I practice.
Hi, how you guys doing?
How are you?
Okay.
Great.
I live in Uniondale for the last 26 years. And by any chance, did any of you guys read the paper of Newsday of October 29?
I am sure we have, but you'd have to refresh.
It's about an article about the competing...
Jesse and John are our favorite writers, so we read it daily, you know.
Okay. It's about the Nassau Coliseum development.
Okay.
And actually, Mangano is the one that put it on the board since 2011. There was a bad weather day. We all went out and voted it down. That's how they went and renovated the Coliseum at a price of $187 million. Fine. But now, all of a sudden, you guys are going and do a rezoning for the Coliseum area. And you guys are giving the contract to RXR to go and developing. I don't even understand. I went to a meeting. I don't even understand where in that small area they can do everything they're going to do. But my main concern is they want to put some housing there. And the way they want to put it in is like if I rent apartment A and somebody rent apartment B, they have to share bathroom. They're not in college. They don't have to share bathroom like this. And they have tax-free for 30 years. Now, if you guys are giving them tax-free for 30 years, and we, the resident, you guys are aware that our tax is going up and up every year. When I moved to Nassau, my tax was $3,800. My tax is $7,000. So if I'm paying the tax, if the developer wants to build a business, they should be able to pay their own taxes. And by the way, Belmont is doing another development with 19,000 seats. So when the developer finished to do this, and they don't have enough business for the two competing arenas, so they pack up and they leave. And us, we're going to leave with everything that they put down that will negatively affect our neighborhood. I don't know how you guys go to approve something that can make people share bathroom. So if they end up having small kids, when they move in, if they're single and they're married, so now their small kids will have to share bathroom with strangers. I'm going to leave this to your guys, people. Please.
Thank you.
Read it.
Absolutely.
And something got to be done.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you much.
Denise Riggio? Okay. Pearl Jacobs. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And I never get to speak.
Would you like me to call somebody else?
Can you do that? And
Sure. Stuart Kroll.
You guys must be lonely over there.
Hmm?
Must be lonely, the two of you.
That's all right. Tommy keeps me busy.
There you go. Stu Kroll, Great Neck. First of all, Mr. Oscarella, congratulations on your victory. Even though I've had some disagreements with Bruce, I will congratulate him in absentia on his victory. For various reasons now, 2 supervisors have fallen by the wayside. I was there when Don Clavin recently promised to bring in qualified help to fix the shelter. That will no doubt involve replacing Mike Pastore and hopefully Christy Fonte as well. By the way, does rehiring an unqualified behaviorist who's lied about 80% of her credentials constitute financial neglect to the taxpayers? Perhaps a lack of fiduciary trust and responsibility, might be something that should be looked into as well. In the private sector, she would have been fired immediately. Is there somebody here who can maybe tell me why the shelter is closed for 2 weeks in November?
Excuse me, why the shelter was closed for 2 weeks in November?
No TNR for 2 weeks in November. That seems like a long time.
We could find out for you and let you know.
Okay. I'd also like to know why trappers can now only bring in 3 cats rather than the previous amount of 5. With a $5.5 million budget, you would think that they could accommodate 5 cats, and this is a hardship for trappers and causes more suffering to homeless cats. And I'd also like to know who's making those decisions. Is it Mike Pastore making that decision on how many, cats to do that? There's a guy that went to the Utica facility, gave it a clean bill of health, and then it was so bad that the mayor of Utica was in tears. So I don't think he's qualified to decide anything. That's my impressions. I would like to know who's making those decisions, and if we can get it reversed to 5 cats.
Sure, we'll get you that info.
Okay, I appreciate that. I hope that Don Clavin will honor his pledge to revamp the shelter. I do believe that he's smart enough to do just that. It's quite clear that animal advocates have a voice. I think we've seen that pretty clearly right now. If not, he can answer for that in 2 years. I'll say something to Lori, even though she's not here. All I will say is that she ran on a clear platform of improving shelter conditions. We were quite pleased when she was elected 2 years ago. As soon as she took office, she immediately distanced herself from all animal advocates. I have no idea why she did this. Apparently, she thought she was immune from the same fate that befell Santino. Whatever advice she was getting in this matter was very bad advice, and we animal advocates counted on her help. It was not forthcoming, and we will merrily move forward without her help and without her. Thank you.
Jay Blackman. Jay Blackman. Lucille DeFina.
Well, the timing couldn't be better for volunteers. Thank you so much for coming up here and finally bringing up an issue that we've been saying for years and years. The thing that everybody has to realize here is this is the way the shelter's been for a while. You go in there as a ghost town. Somebody wants to adopt a kitten or a dog, there's nobody to help. You never see anybody walking around. The pens are empty. everything has been stagnant. And now they're coming and speaking about it. I am thrilled to pieces, because what everyone has to realize is when you say this shelter is not staffed, you have a 4.2, whatever it is, it's over $4 million in staff, $4 million in salary. And you still have people coming up here to this microphone, as we have for years, begging for people to help at the animal shelter. And you can't tell me 5 part-time employees that got dismissed is the problem. Yeah, we want them in there. We want them back. We want everybody in there working. But we certainly want a $4.2 million payroll salary that is spent on staff to be working and to be visible and to turn that shelter around with the help of these volunteers. They're certainly doing their part. And for you, Mr. D'Esposito, to say you're going to now speak to the commissioner to rectify this problem? Well, this commissioner, last I looked, has been there since day one. He's been there the whole time and has been very instrumental to bringing this shelter into the disgusting condition that it has been. So you better look somewhere else. And I really hope Don Clavin, because he himself at every debate said he's going to fire all the commissioners. Well, that's what has to happen here, especially at an animal shelter.
Wilhelmina Funderburk. Mita Meriday. Mary Ellen Cray.
Mary Ellen Cray, Uniondale resident. First of all, I'm very pleased to learn the passing of item number 4 in the public hearing about the balloons. I think that is an important environmental issue, and I appreciate it. Further, I would like to protest the adjournment of the ethics resolution, because I feel it's an extremely, extremely, extremely important issue and should have been moved.
Thank you, Ms. Cray. Melissa Jaffe. 10-4, thank you. Phyllis Federici. Thank you. Rory Gordon. Ms. Jacobs, it's all you.
Well, I regret again that I can't speak in front of my councilwoman.
You don't like me, Tommy, and Sylvia?
No, that's not personal. Nothing is personal with me, but she is my councilwoman, and she should hear my concerns. And I hope she's all right back there. Maybe her aide should go check on her. I really hope she's okay. She said 10 minutes, but here we go. The streetscaping project, it should have been on this agenda. And I would like to know why. When we advocated for the streetscaping project, it was not only for aesthetic beauty, it was to alleviate the compromised sidewalks, curbs, and the issues that we have that are deteriorating, severely deteriorating sidewalks that are literally crumbled. So I would like to know why I was told that this was going to be on the calendar.
Commissioner Tooman, is that you guys? Okay. Is it Planning and Economic Development? If you can meet with Ms. Jacobs right after she's done, okay?
I hope I get an answer today.
She's more than happy to give you the answer that you need.
I would hope so. Thank you. Code enforcement, where do I begin? We have 615 Uniondale Avenue, AKA church property. There appears to have been some sort of random construction going on at that site with partially new windows installed. And I would like to know, is there a permit on file with the town of Hempstead? Because the structure is severely dilapidated, and this house has stood vacant for almost 10 years now.
Well, I'll ask Commissioner Rockamp. I wouldn't expect him to know off the top of his head if
There's
a location.
no one here to, there's nobody here?
Commissioner, you don't know off the top of your head, right? Okay.
Again, I want to put on public record that this is a church property, and I could care less whether it's a church property because they are abusing the system as well. And it's a blight for the neighborhood. Another issue, 321 California Avenue. I first brought this to the attention of the code enforcement buildings on July 22nd. We had some back and forth correspondence going back. In the last issue that, the last email I received, the correspondence I received was on August 6th. Okay, so now we're in November, but I sent it a complaint informing the building department that 321 California Avenue property is overgrown with trees and bushes, and the house appears to be in some sort of neglect and severe neglect, and the yard is overrun with raccoon and possums. And the neighbors' yards at night adjacent to these properties are infiltrated with these raccoons and these possums. And we complained about this. I received some sort of correspondence with nothing that was directly eradicating this issue. But however, 2 weeks ago, one of the neighbors that lives in back of this property, she was going in her shed to pick up something, and she was startled by 3 raccoons that she thought was chasing her, and she fell. Okay, and she had just had rotator cuff surgery, and she injured the arm that she had surgery on. Okay, so 321 California Avenue.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Anyone else? I wish you all a very blessed Thanksgiving.
Wait a minute, I am not finished. I have one more. I waited. And we have one issue with the 7-Eleven, former 7-Eleven building on Front Street, where 3 weeks ago was damaged by the windstorm that came through. And I don't know where code enforcement, are they looking at these things? Okay, a pole was severely compromised, leaning over this property, and this area is where children meet their school buses in the morning. I myself had to go and call and contact PSE&G, and I had a team, management, outside operations team and project manager meet me at that property, and they have put in a priority complaint to fix that pole, but the structure is still severely compromised.
Okay, I'll share your information with Senior Councilwoman Gooseby, who I'm sure will continue to work extremely hard for the residents. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Not Uniondale.